Hey, in this episode, we're going to compare the Shoei GT Air to the Sedici Strada helmet. Welcome to Urban Monk TV. So this is a video that I've been planning to do for quite some time. I owned this Sedici helmet. It's a Strada model and very similar to the Shoei GT Air, but I went for this one first because I was in a situation in my life where a budget was really important. And but then I did end up buying this when it went on sale recently. So what I needed to do was get some time with this helmet first on the road, taking some longer trips in different weather situations and different traffic situations so that I could really fairly compare them. And now I think I'm ready to do that. So let's jump right in. First thing I'll say about these helmets are their features. Let's just do a quick comparison of that. They're both full face helmets. They both have a flip down visor, bam, and bam. Both of them, that functions really well. One of the key differences, they look very similar in design, both very aerodynamic. One of the first things that I will have to say about my particular review is you may notice behind me that I ride mainly with a full windshield. That is because I do a lot of highway speed travel. I go a lot of distance frequently, and I live in California, so the speeds are 80 miles an hour. A lot, and after a while that can get tiring, so I really appreciate having that windscreen. Thus, I'm not really the best source of information on the aerodynamics of these helmets. What I will say is neither of them buffets behind that, but that's more a factor of the windscreen than these helmets. When I do stick my head out or stand up in a stiff wind, they both seem fine. So aerodynamics, I'll call them equals in that regard. As far as fit goes, this helmet comes with really high quality padding and just nice features. It's well built, and so does this one. They both had the chin curtain. Now, when I bought this helmet originally, the Sedici Strada, it had a chin curtain, so they do come with it when you order, but I took it off. Why did I take it off? Well, because I lived in Minnesota and I was riding in cold weather a lot. A little bit more airflow through the helmet by removing that chin curtain really seemed to help with fogging. I could keep the visor completely closed, and as long as I was moving at a reasonable speed to get a little airflow through there, I never really had any fogging problems with the Sedici Strada. And we're talking upper 40 degrees Fahrenheit, lower 50s, that kind of a thing. So while I'm on the topic of fogging, let me talk about the experience I had with this. This is a single piece of plastic in this visor, and there is some sort of anti-fog coating on this piece of plastic. And the first helmet that I ordered from Cycle Gear is where you buy these. That layer, I went on a trip around Lake Superior. In fact, that trip, I've got a video, I'll put a link below if you're interested. But that layer of the fog resistant coating began to peel off. And because it was a brand new helmet at the time, I called Cycle Gear, and to their credit, they swapped it out for me, no questions asked. The only problem was I originally had ordered black. They didn't have black anymore, so I ended up getting this silver color and been living with it ever since. But when I do have my choice, I prefer a black helmet. So that was, anti-fog on the Strada, and that is anti-fog on the Strada. To sum that up, I would say, hopefully you get a visor where the fog layer is fine, and if it's really cold, remove the chin curtain, and it doesn't seem to fog up much at all, and it works really well. On the Shoei, you have the pin lock system. So this is actually two pieces of plastic, and right around here is like a silicone seal, and because of those two layers, that's the fog resistance. The inner layer is not as cold as the outer layer. It works pretty well, but for some reason, when I'm near the ocean here in California, riding up the coast, this will tend to get kind of like a filmy layer on it. I don't know if it's the salt air or if there's some kinds of, it's almost like oils when I try to wipe it off. In fact, I can see some on here right now. So I struggle a little bit with getting a nice crystal clear vision through this visor with that pin lock in. I didn't have the same problem with this helmet. So I'll say that about anti-fog. The other thing I will say is that this thing seals so well, and especially with that chin curtain on there, that even in moderately cold weather, say low 60s, I'll still get some fog building up kind of low down underneath my nose here. It doesn't really get in the way of my vision, but my habit since I bought this has been to slow down, when I slow down, is to, give it one crack, and I'll ride like that in town, and that takes care of the problem. Once I'm up to highway speed, I seal it up. Now when I do that, let's talk about noise. This thing with that cracked open is just about as noisy as this thing with it completely closed. The other caveat here is I almost always ride with earplugs in because I care about my hearing. And wind noise over a long period of time is just really detrimental. I will say for the Shoei GT Air, this is the quietest helmet I have ever owned. When you close that visor, boom, it's quiet. It's like you walked into the recording studio or something. It's quite nice. With this helmet, there have been times where I forgot to put my earplugs in. I've already got the helmet strapped on, and I just go as long as I'm not going too far. But if it is still a long distance I'll be going, then I will stop and take it off, put my earplugs on. But this one, I would stop immediately no matter where I was going and put my earplugs in. So there's that for noise. Super quiet. It's really nice. One more thing I'll say about noise, the Sedici Strada is no worse than other helmets that I've owned. It's fine, it's average. This is exceptional. I want to talk a little bit about comfort. I have an oval shaped head, and both of these helmets are marketed for people with oval shaped heads. This helmet, the Strada, has some removable foam when you open up right up at the top of the forehead, kind of where the band is, and you can take a layer out. It's designed to be that way so you don't have to go in there and do damage to the foam to make more space for your head. Even doing that, after about an hour and a half with this helmet, I started to get a red mark on my forehead, and a couple hours I had a pretty good headache. That was the main driver for why I went to this helmet. This is marketed as fitting oval shaped heads, and it does. It fits my head really well. If you have a round head, this may not be the helmet for you. If you're somewhere in between, this will probably work great, but I'm a little too oval for the Strada, I would say. On comfort, the other thing I would say is that bit aside, they're both very comfortable with the padding. I would say that the Shoei GT Air is a little bit more snug, but in a comfortable way. When you put this thing on, you really feel like it became a part of your whole noggin, and it's just snug in a good way. I don't know how other to describe that. What I will say is that the ear holes are, they have cutouts for speakers, and if you do a Bluetooth system, I'll get to that stuff later. But if I don't wiggle it around and get my ears just right in there, I can get some pain in my ears because they're not sitting right. So when I put it on, I got this little wiggle I'll do with it to get my ears to settle in correctly. Then it's very comfortable. And I have ridden this all the way up the highway, up the Pacific Coast Highway, California 1, from really Dana Point where it starts all the way up to the Golden Gate Bridge and back, more than once actually this past summer and spring. Went up to the Quail actually. If you're interested in seeing the Quail Motorcycle Show, I'll put a link below. I've got a couple of visits up there. And this helmet has been great for that. So comfort, they're both pretty comfortable, except that the shape of this one was wrong for me. The other thing I will say is that the chin strap on this helmet is really nicely, padded where it comes together under your chin. I had no problems with comfort on this. On this one, padded again, but for whatever reason, it leaves a little red mark on my Adam's apple. It doesn't hurt, but it looks a little silly when I get off. I don't know why it does that. I'm wearing it properly. Build quality. No issues with the Shoei at all. This thing has stayed together in the time that I've owned it. Granted, I've owned this one longer, and I do have more miles on this one, but I've put plenty on this and I can see it's built well, it's built to last. Couple issues I had with the Strada is over time, some of these liners are getting loose and I have to keep putting it back in there. And I don't know, just the Velcro that holds that in got loose over time. Not a big deal, but I'm fiddling with it quite often to put it back. And then underneath the visor here, there are a couple of screws that hold this mechanism into the helmet. This one you'll see is kind of a zinc silver. I don't know if you can see that. Well, they both are. They were originally black. The reason they're silver is because they fell out somewhere and I had to replace them. There's also another screw holding this mechanism into the helmet underneath this retaining cover for the visor itself. All four of those screws just loosened up, so they could have put a little drop of Loctite on those in manufacturing. Not a big deal, but I lost some screws, had to go to the hardware store, replace them. If you buy the Strada, I wouldn't say that's a reason not to buy it. Just snug them up and put some Loctite on them right out of the box, and then you shouldn't have a problem. No problems here. It's awesome. Back to some features. Again, they both have cutouts for speakers for a Bluetooth system, or maybe if you're like for this camera, there's a speaker inside and it fit in there very nicely. This is the Sena tube. Not a fan of this camera actually, but that's for another review. I wanted to mount a different type of camera, like a GoPro, on this helmet, and I want to mention for those of you that want to do the video thing and perhaps moto vlog, the shape of this is not flat, and you really have a hard time finding a flat surface to adhere a camera mount onto with this helmet. This one, much better. It's flatter there. So I think this would be better for moto vlogging. I don't do moto vlogging, but I took a stab at it for a while and was so disappointed with this Sena tube camera that I gave up on it for now. That's an aside. Aerodynamics are very good. This helmet, you can actually get a Bluetooth system already installed in it from the factory for a certain price. And I don't know that you can with the Shoei. I won't comment on that. Google it. As far as airflow and cooling on hot days, the GT Air, I believe, is the superior helmet here. When you open up this top, front, and back vents, man, it's like a scalp cooler. You really feel the top of your head getting colder right away. This, you don't feel it so much. I don't know that I ever felt any cooling happening on the top of my head, even with these small little vents open here. You know, the front worked fine. Again, I have a windshield, so it's not getting direct airflow in there. I may not be the best guy to comment on that. Of course, what we all buy a helmet for, other than keeping the wind off our face maybe, and the sun, is if the worst happens and we go down, we want to make sure that shell and the whole system is protecting our gray matter as best as possible. What can I say? I haven't crashed with these helmets on, so how could I comment about that? What I will say is that the shell material on the Shoei is supposedly something called tri-composite. I don't know what that is. Look it up. What I do know with the Strada is that I bought their bottom of the line version, the cheapest one, and that is Kevlar with fiberglass. So it's a little heavier. They do have a Kevlar with carbon fiber. I believe it's $100 to $150 upcharge for the carbon fiber shell, and then of course when you get the Bluetooth and that kind of thing, that messes with the price. But Kevlar in all versions of this. I didn't find the fiberglass one to be, real heavy. The Shoei is a little bit lighter. I do trust this brand that they have done their homework and that the foam inside of this shell and the shell itself are designed to reduce the amount of impact that gets, the force that goes through your skull into your gray matter is minimized. Again, that's just trusting a brand. I can't comment on it. And finally, price. $199.99 with, that sun visor, Kevlar shell, fiberglass. If your head fits this thing, pretty good value, I have to say. Wear earplugs for the noise and put some Loctite on those screws, and I think you'll be happy. With this, you're gonna be happy, no doubt. This is a great helmet, but you're gonna pay more for it. I got this one on sale in the $400 range, plus a little bit for shipping, because this is the first generation. They've now come out with the Shoei GT Air 2, and I'm seeing those run $550 to $600, something like that. So this is a more expensive helmet. Even when you feature this thing up with the carbon fiber shell, Bluetooth, that whole thing, I think $350 is as expensive as this Strada will get. So I think for value, this is, if it fits you, this is probably a better value. But this fits me better. So this is a better value for me. So that's it, you guys. I hope you found this informative. If you like what I'm doing, I do some product reviews on things that I've used. No endorsements here, just I bought this stuff, I used this stuff, here's my opinions on this stuff. I have other reviews on other products, check them out. I have a playlist for that. If you like cafe racers, I'm building a vintage 1978 Suzuki Cafe Racer and taking you guys along for every single step of the way. I've got that, and I own a V-Strom that I do a lot of maintenance videos on. Regular routine maintenance that apply to the V-Strom, and a lot that apply to just about any motorcycle out there. So if you like what I'm doing, please give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to become an urban monk, subscribe. Thanks for watching.